All right. I know that you playing along at home is going to get this, but Stallion, you love it when I hit you with a little movie trivia.
Oh, yeah. I'm like go for 1,000 on these.
Okay. Here's a 1990s movie.
Okay.
Starring Vince Vaughn, Jon Favreau. And there's a scene where Jean, that was my French roots coming out there. Jean Valjean. Jon Favreau has successfully had an amazing date, and Vince Vaughn wants to celebrate it with him. And he's like, my baby's all grown up. He's all grown up. He's all grown up. What movie am I referencing?
I'm dead. I got nothing.
Are you serious?
I mean, you always know this stuff. I never know this stuff.
You're not a 90s kid.
I am.
You're not a 90s kid. All right. I know you guys are at home are like yelling at the Stallion. It's Swingers, man. Swingers.
Okay. Yeah. I never saw that movie.
Well, here's the reason for that reference, right? So today's podcast interview, we're interviewing one of our own, somebody that has been helping us internally, like improve the way we run the business, but also and help us see the business from a light of being truly a business owner, having the business work for us instead of us work for the business. But yet, as somebody in the community, we've also seen him grow up. We've seen him like move to a whole new level in the way that he is operating financially and personally. And I just think like this is a moment like to share. Like I'm so excited for Justin and for you guys to hear his story.
Yeah. So you remember Justin Harris? He came on before talking about his business Congruence that he started to. He's helped us with our business to grow it and to, again, get the operational things behind the scenes that we had no clue about. But yet his journey with IBC has continued to grow. And it's amazing to me. Like he's made some errors along the way. We're going to get into one of those. And maybe that'll be something that you can take away from this episode. But beyond that, man, generationally, how has his whole mindset about this changed?
It's constantly, I think, evolving and growing, but just the way that he exited some of the, I would say, S quadrant roles that he was in, to become his own B and I quadrant investor and business owner. And I just love it because it's someone taking action on the content and coming on and sharing with you very tactical, very tangible ideas that can help aspire you to the same goals, to same financial freedom. And Joey, like let's don't take any more time. Let's jump into this interview right now with Justin Harris.
Welcome to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, your guide to understanding how to get out of the Wall Street rat race and start your own mailbox money lifestyle. Now, don't let these handsome Southern draws fool you. These financial minds are teaching our country to enhance savings, increase cash flow, and create passive income, all without the help of Wall Street. Are you ready to break through? Now here are your hosts, Russ Morgan and Joey Murray.
Justin, it's kind of funny that we're actually pressing record because this is typical for you, me, and Joey just to sit around a table and be talking about ideas and opportunities and conquering the world plans. But thank you for jumping on the podcast.
Hey, man, I'm excited to be here. Yeah, definitely a little different today, but I'm excited, man, to do the same thing.
So if you don't know who Justin is, Justin has been our COO at Wealth Without Wall Street, has added an amazing amount of value to just building out structures, and he has an operational mind that is just kind of surpasses most. He's exited a few companies. Why don't you talk a little bit about where you've come from, and then we'll get into maybe how you've transitioned from that.
Yeah, absolutely. So about, it's been probably 10 years ago now. My former partner and I started a couple of companies. He was definitely more the visionary there, kind of sitting in the Russ big ideas chair. And I just was the operational mind. I mean, I think about how to take something big and get it done. So I was the COO for both of those companies. And gosh, we stayed there for, 7 years or so, grew those. and then ended up exiting. But yeah, again, my part there was just to help think operationally. How do we take what we're doing, put some really good systems around it, and help it scale? So my brain just naturally thinks that way. And it was really fun to be a part of that before, like I said, exiting those and hopping out on mine.
Well, the benefit of an entrepreneur to partner with another entrepreneur mind, but who has that operational bent is huge, because Joey and I both have all gas pedal, but very little brake or steering wheel. Right. And I think of when, we connected, and I like to say maybe you added clarity to our confusion. I don't know if that's the proper way to say that, but you understand the gears behind the business that need the buttons that need to be pushed, the systems that need to be in place in order to make sure that you don't constantly crash into the wall.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the very first phase of anything I help a company think through is just clarity. Hey, let's be real clear about where we're going, what we want to do. Then take and align resources around that, and then let's execute. And so if you do that over and over and over again, you can clarify where you want to go, align resources and people around that, and then, have a real plan to get it done. You can get a lot done. And that's how I love just helping guys like you, visionaries, big picture. You got big dreams, you lots of ideas, and going, okay, how can we really take that? Let's grab it. Let's turn it into something that could run really fast,
Well, I think we could do a whole podcast just on your understanding of how businesses work. How do they create predictable success? The people and the systems that need to be in place so that they're not constantly out of control. But today, I really want to focus in, if it's okay, on your journey as an entrepreneur, right? I want to talk a little bit about, from an operational mindset. There's people listening to this podcast all the time. They hear us talking about infinite banking. You've got some exposure experience there. I want to talk a little bit about that. But then also I want to talk about some of those cool things that you're finding in the e-commerce space, the way you're evaluating companies and businesses. Yep. We've been talking about that together. How do we maybe look at making that an opportunity that we can get involved in at a bigger level? These are just some of the things in my mind, Joey.
Oh, no, I totally agree. And I think Justin is a fantastic person for us to dive into those subjects with. So let's start out with, you were working in a company, you exited. Mm-hmm. How did you transition from that to where you are today?
Yeah, great question.
What were the things going through your mind? What were you thinking, and how did that play out?
Yeah, so we grew two fantastic companies, and I loved being a part of that. But you kind of get that entrepreneur itch, and you think, man, I would really love to do something on my own. And at the time, throughout the years of being there, really helped to develop a system to help us run those two companies. And I thought, I would love to take the core of what we were doing there, put it into a system and a process that could be easily given to other companies, that you could take on the road and scale and use with other companies. And so I did that. Congruence was born out of that several years ago. But what was interesting is that, I started consulting with companies, and I started implementing those types of things. And actually, obviously, you guys were one of those companies. So this is
thank you, by the way. Okay.
And we've had a blast doing that, helping you put the right systems and processes in place. But I will say this, from being around you guys and really thinking more about assets and what am I putting my time into to help that thing to work without me, I thought, I can keep just consulting and really helping other people turn their businesses into assets that can work without them. But the whole time I'm thinking, but I'm consulting, like I'm trading time for money while I'm doing this, so it's almost the opposite of what I'm telling them. And so after hearing your message for a while and hanging out with you guys, I thought, what, I need to preach the same message to myself. And so I thought, what would it look like to begin to not just consult for other companies, but to acquire some assets and apply the same principles to them, so that while I'm helping other companies, I'm actually doing the same thing to companies that I own as well.
Which to me, by the way, we've just got off another podcast and we were just talking about this. Too often, the people teaching are not doing; they're just teaching, and I think that sometimes we need to take a pause and say, does the person teach actually know how to do what they're telling me to do, right? Because if they did, why would they be teaching and not doing?
Are they eating their own cooking, as you always say?
And I will say, if at first when you came to us and said, hey, by the way, I'm not going to take a bigger role as the CEO in the company, as we were kind of starting to talk about doing, because I want to go do this, I was a little pissed at you. I was thinking, no, man,
let's be real.
Like we are on a world conquering journey here, and we absolutely need your help.
You got to be a part of this.
But at the same time, I was like, yes, heck yes, man. Like that is exactly what you're built to do. And you're not, even though you still help us a little bit on the side, you're following what you need to be doing, which is taking those ideas and information that you have and consulting in businesses that now you own. So before we get to that part, because I think that's interesting, I do want to bring up infinite banking. Because a lot of times people will say, well, yeah, there's a lot of people that get interested in this, but they're like you, Russ. They just will jump off the diving board and figure out how much water's in the pool after the fact, right? And so they just quick start. They hadn't done all the research. If they did the research, they may not take action. So you, way before we met each other, had learned about infinite banking and started some policies. What was your initial take in infinite banking, and what got you excited about it?
Well, I wanted to take, at the time, I was an owner in obviously the other two companies. And, as an owner, you're saving tax money. So initially I thought this is a good place to kind of hold my tax money captive until I have to pay it. Yeah. Right. Because I knew that, you could pay into that. It was a great place to do that. And then, borrow against that, pay taxes. And then at one point I was thinking, hey, I'll have a big windfall down the road and I can pay that back, and repeat the cycle. So I wanted to take advantage of cash that I had sitting around and put it in a spot where it could be just much more efficient. Right. Mm-hmm. Where we ran into trouble, where I personally kind of ran into trouble, and now if I could take it back, I would. I had a pretty substantial policy initially to begin with that I was utilizing for tax purposes. And after a few years of us not making a really big profit initially, I mean, that generally you think when you start a company that it's just going to take off like a rocket. Yeah. And it took a minute. Yeah. And so I was 2 or 3, 4 years into the policy of taking loans for just for tax stuff, and we hadn't seen the amount of profit come in to be able to pay all that back. So I saw this hole, or what I viewed as a hole. Now I view it completely differently, right? Of basically just owing money back to myself for the policy, and didn't get great advice, didn't seek the best counsel for the way to handle it, and I canceled the policy.
So you had how many policies at the time?
That time, a couple.
Couple. And so you end up
getting, I canceled the biggest one.
You got rid of a big policy. Yes. Now, for those of you who don't know how big of a mistake that was for Justin, imagine that you're in the business of selling apples, right? And you plant trees so that those trees will grow to a point where they bear fruit. And then you get to harvest the apple and sell it and get paid back for all the labor that went into it. So imagine Justin planting a tree, getting to the point that its branches are big and it's getting ready to start spitting out these beautiful red apples, and he just pulls the tree out of the ground and throws it in the trash can. Does that sound like what happened, Joey? I don't know if I want to rub it in. Normally I wouldn't do that, but since we know Justin so well, I felt like it'd be worth making sure it's visual for those at home who don't know how big of a mistake that was.
I'm going to go ahead and give Justin a brown paper bag just as he's hyperventilating. But
it was painful.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right, so now you sit around us and we're working closely together, and obviously you're learning that yes, this entrepreneurial itch is what I need to be following, but also you're learning more about how we're implementing infinite banking. So talk a little bit about how your progression of understanding what infinite banking is and how it can operate within your business structure has evolved since that moment in time where you made such a catastrophic mistake.
Yeah. Thanks, Gus.
Not to bring that up again.
Not to twist the knife in the wound. So ended up again hanging out with you guys and really understanding that there are many more applications to infinite banking than I was thinking. I had a pretty limited view.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I thought maybe some taxes. That was a good opportunity to leverage it, or maybe if you had an emergency fund and you utilized it kind of that way, right? Like you would feel it. So, but I didn't think about utilizing one asset to build another asset. And what I mean by that is, obviously, once as after we hung out for a while, I got back on the train, and I think we started like 5 new policies just with kids, plus a couple more for me and my wife.
He hangs around us long enough. You got to start multiplying policies.
Got to get a lot. So and built those, but then was very strategic to think, okay, now I want to leverage that asset and the debt that we can utilize from it to build another asset. And so again, after you and I had that conversation, we were driving back that day from our offsite, from planning, and we were talking about, hey man, I really think I want to purchase other assets and grow those, purchase other companies to grow them. But man, what a beautiful thing to do, as to utilize the policies that I have to do that. So now I'm not just taking dollars and buying an asset to grow it, in terms of a company, but now I can leverage 2 assets at one time. And so for me, it was just started to get mind blowing to think about how many times I could utilize that dollar because of the policy to help not only, again, that policy is going to continue to grow, but now I can utilize those dollars and build an asset over here that's going to continue to grow as well in businesses. So,
well, Joey and I, we were just talking about this before the podcast about opportunity. If you think about life and this kind of this river running between us and the promised land, right? There's so many examples. We can go back to the Bible and think about that. There's this river that's stopping people, or could be a roadblock to somebody,
an obstacle of some sort.
And I think about the access to cash is almost that bridge to the opportunities. And we haven't done a good enough job building that bridge. We've literally put our cash in places that we can't access it. So we never feel like we can get to freedom because, man, I just would need the money to take advantage of that.
Yeah, that's for somebody else. That can't be for me.
Well, but once you start building it, then the ideas start coming, because as soon as you start crossing that bridge, you start seeing it closer and closer and closer. And I know that that's what you've seen, because you've had an opportunity now to start evaluating businesses. And I want to talk about that process of how you started to evaluate what businesses you should be looking into, and how do you then go buy them as opposed to just creating one from scratch.
Yep. Well, having started 2 businesses, actually 3 businesses from scratch, I really got intrigued with what would it look like to go buy, maybe underperforming may not even be the right word, but just businesses with really heavy potential, because maybe they haven't tapped into other markets. Maybe there's some things that they haven't done that I could easily recognize and fix because I understand and think systems, right? So if I'm looking at something, and in this instance, I wasn't totally sure what type of business to get into, but the more I looked into things, the more I started kind of coming back to e-commerce. And one of the things that intrigued me about e-commerce is it's one of the few things that you can scale very quickly. If you've got a good product, you got a good supply chain, you've got some decent marketing in place, like you can scale it pretty quickly. So for me, once it kind of settled on those are the types of companies I want to go after, I then started thinking about, well, how can I identify companies that don't have some of those things in place, right? Because in many cases, people who start brands, they do a really good job of developing a product. They've got lots of big ideas, right? But sometimes they do struggle with putting the systems and processes in place to help it really scale. So that's what I went looking for. I went looking for opportunities where there was a good brand in place. There were good products in place, but they didn't maybe put the systems around sales channels in place. They didn't have the operational structure to train people. There's 3 or 4 things that I saw, wow, if we can put this in place, minimum, we could probably, 5x the value of the company in 3 years. But my goal is anyone that I am acquiring a part of, the goal would be to 10x it in 3 years, So kind of going back to the infinite banking thing, I'm thinking about, I pulled all my money out of the market and I started to put those into policies that now I can use. So I pull the money out, I put them into a policy, I borrow against the policy, I buy the company, right? And so that was the thing. And so now I'm thinking I could have left it in the market and just hoped and prayed that it grew. But now that same dollar that I pulled out is going to be growing on multiple fronts, Yeah. And man, I get fired up about that.
Are you looking for ways to implement ideas, get exposure to new ones, and be surrounded by people on the same journey as you? Joey, where can they go to do that?
go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/community. You can join for free today. So I heard I'm thinking of this almost like a framework. So someone's listening saying, yeah, I'm interested in buying businesses too, or I want to try to get into the e-commerce space. So walk us through one, and I don't know, Russ, if you kind of heard what he was saying, but it sounds to me like when we talk to syndicators about apartment complexes, what are they interested in? They're interested in apartments that they can value add. Like there's some deficiency that they know that, oh man, well, maybe I could, flip this in 3 years because I can add enough value to where it's going to make it worth this investment. But if it's already been refurbed and rented to the max and all that, it's retail. It's no longer a deal. It's no longer, I can't add any value to it.
Well, and if you go in there with the mindset of, I know what my skill set is, then I know what to look for. Like literally, you're not looking for necessarily a specific type of company. You're looking for companies who have brand, who have good products, but are missing this thing. Because I can add this thing to it.
Exactly.
Then that is the value add. And another thing I like about this, and you hadn't said this, and whether or not this is the way you think about it, but my brain does. When we start businesses from scratch as entrepreneurs, they're kind of like our little babies, right? And it's so stinking hard to let go of the reins of it. It's so hard to think, well, man, I'm going to sell this business. And this is a thing that I brought up. How many business owners do you hear about who want to hand it down to their kids? And they're just so disappointed that their kids don't want to take over the business that they've worked in for 50 years, right?
Yeah.
But in what you're talking about, you're saying, I want to go into a business, add my value to it, 10x it in 3 years, and then what? Sell it, right? And you don't have that same mentality. It's like, I literally, right before we got on this podcast, I got a call from the guy that's selling my boat. Now, people always say that the best day of own a boat is the day you buy it and the day you sell it. Now, in my situation, it wasn't that way. I bought this boat from a couple who needed to get rid of the boat. We used it, loved it. My best days of having the boat was when I was on it, pulling and dragging kids around. I mean, I smoked this boat for 2 straight years. I burned that thing. I ran over rocks. I did everything you can think of to it. I bought it for $30,000. The guy just called me and told me after all commissions and everything else, I'm going to net like 37. Like, that's an amazing day, right? But just finding value. And I enjoyed having it, but it was just an asset, right? I don't care. It wasn't my baby, right? I'll just go find a new one and see if I can't do that again. That's what you're doing with businesses, right?
Well,
That's right.
But I'm curious though, besides the fact of, hey, I can add value to it. It has the potential of being 10x, in a relatively short amount of time. What are there any other things as you look at a business that you say, it's got to check this box, got to check this box, got to check this box from a lifestyle standpoint?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I want to be able to put it into, and again, e-commerce is a great example for this, is that you can put the structures in place around it so that it doesn't just destroy your time. So I can, I want to have the right structures in place so that we can pick up 4 or 5 more of these and it not cost any more of my time, because again, you can scale that way with e-commerce. And it really doesn't even matter if the next, we've got 2 brands right now. Both of those are fantastic candle brands. I'm super excited about growing those. But if the next brand we pick up is not a candle brand, it's okay, because the core of e-commerce is the same. We've got the supply chain, we've got the marketing, we've got, there's 4 or 5 things. And when I look at a business, when I take over, I'm going to think through kind of 5 core systems of it, right?
Okay.
I think about just the scope of a business. So I want to take over. Number one, I want to take over a business that, Russ, kind of like you were talking about, I want it to have been their baby, because that means they've cared for it. They've done a lot of really good things for the brand. But in most of those cases, those people have a hard time letting go. They have a hard time hiring people and letting go of certain aspects of the business.
They're too close to it.
They love it so much that they want to have their hands in everything, and you just can't grow it that way.
And there lies the opportunity, right? Because that they have limited the growth of the business because of that.
That's right. And they would tell me that. The 2 brands that we purchased, they've told me that. They've like, we've tried to hire, we've tried to do these things, we've tried to do a few things, but we just didn't want to let go. We just didn't want it to let the not have our hands into every aspect of it. And when I see that, I go, that's gold. because I know
Game on.
that we can take that. And again, I can think through kind of 5 types of systems. I call it the scope of the business. The first is strategy. I look at it and go, how do we take advantage of opportunities? How do we strategically make decisions on a consistent basis to grow this thing? C is cash flow, right? A lot of folks that have their hands kind of tightly gripped around the business, sometimes they don't, manage the cash flow as well as they should, which limits growth. You got to understand where dollars are coming in and out. The O is just the operations. Hey, do we have the right stuff in place systems wise to help us track customers and do all the things that you need to do to operationally run a business? P is people. You got to hire, you got to train, you got to develop, right? If you don't have the right systems in place to do that, you're going to stagnate. You can't scale. And then the E of the scope, SCOPE, the E is execution. I want to have the right planning in place, the right processes in place, the right accountability in place to execute on numbers, to execute on things that we say we need to do and that are important for us to be able to get done. So whenever I take one over, I'm like, hey, if we can improve these 5 types of systems and there's clear deficiencies in 3 or 4 of those, then I know we've got gold on our hands.
So how, if I'm sitting here listening to you, from the standpoint, obviously I'm sitting here listening to you, but if I'm listening from the perspective of, could I do this? Is this something that would fit me? What advice would you give someone who may not have had the same background as you? Is it possible, or how do they partner with somebody, or should they partner with someone who can help them in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if your goal is to be able to grow an asset that maybe you don't have to spend quite as much time in, because I think what's gold for us, it's not just, hopefully financially growing something, it's time freedom. Sure. And I want to grow what we're doing so that other people can come and join in to say, hey, if to partner in to be able to, purchase more brands. There's only a limited number that me or a close group can do on our own. And so we want to be able to do that. But I think that right now, the really neat thing is there are multiple opportunities in the marketplace for people to, buy the real estate of e-commerce, to invest in that and have other people operate it. Right. And so
where would you say those places are? Where does someone go to learn those things? Where does someone go to even find the opportunities that may exist out
the
there?
Marketplace for this.
Yeah,
where does it
exist? Right. So there's, a big one right now. It's called Empire Flippers, especially if you're thinking about the Amazon space. They do a fantastic job on there of multiple opportunities, helping you see analytics, helping you learn just the tools that they've got on there, but then also opportunities to invest. They have something called EF Capital, which allows people to come in, be an investor, partner up with an operator, and grow a brand. And that's relatively hands-off, which I don't think there are very many opportunities that can give you the return right now that e-commerce can. And I say that because what I think that the whole COVID situation did, not just to the United States, but to the entire world, is we fast forwarded the way we engage online 4 to 5 years. So people who maybe 3 or 4 years ago, heck, even 2 years ago, would never give you their credit card online. They had to, right? I'm 55 plus, and maybe I didn't do the e-commerce thing. They were forced to. So now all of a sudden, you've got an entire population, the whole world, whose online buying habits just went through the roof. And so when I think about that, I see massive opportunity. So I think, okay, how can we kind of go, in a sense, buy real estate in that space? Because the return on it is pretty impressive.
Yeah, we don't see that going back. There's nobody going to say, well, I know I could get all that stuff online, but now I'm just going to drive 30 minutes and go walk through and stand in lines and deal with all the hassles of masks and everything else just so that I can buy this product for probably 25% more than I could have got it online.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times in the last year that I was walking into a place, I was like, never again. Never again. I'm not coming in here anymore. Yeah. Like I'm buying this online going forward. I don't even care.
And here's the thing is that if you're sitting there and you're going, no, I want to support the local retailer. I want to support the local business owner. the thing is that that's who's selling these things through e-commerce. They're still local. You're just buying it from a different person at a discount. And by the way, at that discount means you have more dollars to invest somewhere else that truly can help local. So if you have that mentality, like, no, I'm taking money out of my neighbor's pocket. No, you're not. You're actually, all that happens as technology advances, dollars get put into different places, jobs change, but for the better, right? I mean, technology, nobody's going to say we're worse off because of technology, right? No, we're making leaps and advances. So I love e-commerce because I think it is the future. It is the place that's happening. There's still people behind it. There's still products that have to be made by people. The more that advances, the more opportunity that exists.
Yep, absolutely. And for us, I think even from an e-com brand standpoint, we make our products here in the United States. So it's not like we're in a lot of cases, those are being made overseas and taking jobs away from potentially people here. I'm cool with working with, suppliers overseas, but we happen to make most of our products here, which is a lot of fun. So when you do support us and buy something from one of our brands online, you're not just supporting the brand proper. Like, there are other people from a manufacturing standpoint behind that are creating these right here.
Well, let's highlight a couple of those brands. I love the fact that you guys have gotten in the candle space. My wife is a big, huge fan, and it's got all sort of ideas. By the way, if you need a marketing person for ideas of new product designs and stuff like that, I mean, she's filling my ear up last night. He needs to get the literary candle brand. I'm like, what does that mean? She goes, oh, like the Little Women. They have the Little Women flavors that he can come out with. Flavors. What? I mean, I didn't know Joe had a smell that we needed to get out there.
Does it smell like no deodorant? They didn't have it back then.
I mean, what does that smell like? But anyway, so talk a little bit about the companies. I'd love to highlight those, and this is an opportunity for you guys. If you need a gift idea for somebody, take advantage of these candles.
Yes. So two pretty different brands, but both are awesome. The first is Walter and Rosie. So walterandrosie.com, we do Disney inspired. There's candles, wax melts, room sprays, custom laundry detergents, air fresheners, car air fresheners. So anything to do with scent, but all these things are Disney inspired. Like last weekend, we released like all of our Marvel inspired stuff. This next weekend, we're going to have several releases that relate to like The Incredibles. And so it's fun, man. We've got all kinds of stuff related to Disney. If you love that, then these things would be perfect for you.
Well, part of what I really was fascinated with, not only is this like, obviously they have colors and stuff like that are similar and it would make you feel like you were there, but also more like to the fact that some of the scents that are in some of these hotels and stuff like that in these areas, you guys can have somebody remind them of being in those specific places.
Yeah.
Right?
If you were at like the Beach Club Resort at Disney and you buy the Beach Club candle that we have, like you're literally smelling the same fragrance. When that candle burns, it is going to take you back to the happiest place on earth, man. And you're going to be in the Beach Club and you're going to be smelling that. And for me, that is so much fun. So again, it wasn't just like an asset to buy to grow. Like I saw the products and I go, these are so much fun to do and to be around and to help.
Well, they mean so much to people too, because I mean, some people have saved up for years and years and years to go to Disney, and then they've got something to remind them. It's not just a picture; it actually brings them back there from the smells of that place. That's so cool.
Yeah. But you have another candle brand as well, right?
Yeah, we sure do. It's called Stack Candles. And the origin story there, you think about ancient Israel, whenever they were in a situation where God provided provision for them, whether it was manna or, from heaven or, something that happened in the Old Testament where they were just blessings, provisions, they would stack stones in remembrance of that occasion. And it was really just a symbol of gratitude. And so Stack is a luxury candle brand. Our tagline for it is the fragrance of gratitude. And that story of ancient Israel is actually printed on, we've got dust covers on our boxes. It tells that story. And so whenever, again, this is a luxury brand, man, the fragrances are just amazing. But we also have obviously candles and room sprays. We're going to be rolling out a luxury line of detergents for that as well, which is cool. Man, really excited about diffusers. But again, the heart of it is whenever you light that candle, or use that product that you would think back and just be thankful. Man, we've been blessed with so many things.
We need more of
want
that
message. Yeah, we want that message out
nowadays for sure.
Well, man, we're grateful and thankful for you and for sharing this message. If you haven't already gone into our community, you have an opportunity. Go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/community. You can search Justin Harris. He's in there. And also, he has freely given away one of his courses to help you understand as a business owner the how to grow it and some of the systems that need to be in place. So go to courses and you get to see his business course that he's put in there that is free for you to take advantage of. And I really appreciate you doing that. This is such a huge resource. We've gotten tons of feedback from those who've gone through it and are really seeing the success and fruit that comes from that.
Yeah. And just on the way out here, I just want to ask you one more question. So you've told us where you came from. You told us where you're at right now. How infinite banking has kind of fueled that even here lately. What's the future look like? If you're building clarity for the future, what do you see yourself 10 years from now? What does life look like?
10 years from now, I get excited about creating opportunities for people. Even for the consulting company that have Congruence, the vision for it is to help business owners maximize their impact on the world. And when I think about that's by helping them free up time and mental space and clarity through the right system so they can really do what they were meant for. I see the same thing happening just, again, for more companies that we own. So I hope that 10 years from now, there's 25 or 30 brands that we have at any given point in time, and that we've been able to create a lot of jobs from that we've been able to create a lot of opportunity for that as well. And so, man, I get excited about that. I think about just growing this thing because I love doing this stuff. So I'm not looking just to go hang out on the beach. With after selling a few of these brands, I hope that we can continue that and multiply that process and grow it from there.
Well, and if you've taken just nuggets away from this, that last one is one of those. It's really, we see this theme, Joey, is that successful entrepreneurs have a drive to keep going. There's never this moment to say, but when I hit this point, then I'm going to stop.
That's right.
That the key ingredient is looking to serve, looking for an opportunity to plant your flag in a gap that exists in a business, and finding ways that you can add value. And money always follows value.
That's right.
And we've seen that along your journey. We're so thankful again, Justin, for jumping on the podcast with us. And thank you, as always, for listening to this podcast. Go check out Justin's course, hit him up. And then if you have a need for a candle, go to stack.com and walterandrosie.com, correct?
Yep, stackcandles.com, walterandrosie.com.
All right. Have an amazing day.
Thanks, guys.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.